One, wait, okay. Welcome back to the online joint class. It is a collaborative program between Telkom University Indonesia and University Technology Mara Malaysia, UiTM. And hopefully all of you are in a good health today. And we will have online joint class with Dr. Shahruniza and Dr. Lira. So first of all, let me tell you, my name is Novi and I will be the chairperson for today's session. And joining us today, our excellent speakers, Ms. Lira Anindita Utami as the SMPL PhD from Telkom University, and then Dr. Shahruniza bin Sulaiman from UiTM. And also we would like to welcome all of you, students from Telkom University and students from UiTM. So welcome to the first session of our online joint class under the topic research project. And let me tell you the flow of today's session. The first session will be speaker's presentation that will be delivered by Dr. Shahruniza. And then the second one is the discussion session. We will have Dr. Nizam as well as Dr. Lira. And then photo session and in the end is closing. And before we start the first agenda, so I would like to tell you the basic rule for today's session. Number one, during the speaker's presentation, kindly turn off your microphone, everyone. And for those who want to ask a question during the speaker's presentation, please drop it in the feature of chat and we will follow up the question in the discussion session. And then participants are encouraged to ask directly in the discussion session. So everyone can ask to our speakers. And then all participants are encouraged to turn on the video during the photo group session at the end of the class. And at the end of the session, we will share the feedback link. So please kindly fill out the feedback link for earning e-certificate. But please note that participants who will get the e-certificate are participants who attend two sessions, the first session and the next session. Yeah? All right, so without further ado, so everyone, today the speakers who will deliver the material is Dr. Shahruniza bin Sulaiman from UiTM, Faculty of Art and Design, and his research interest is in interface design, graphic communication, and new media design. Okay, so everyone, please welcome Dr. Shahruniza. Dr. Shahruniza, the screen is yours.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. MP, for the introduction, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon. Okay, and also very good afternoon, Dr. Lira. Unfortunately, we couldn't meet that day.
Yeah, unfortunately, Doctor.
Okay, but
You know that it was really hectic.
Yes, inshallah, in the future, looking forward to a physical visit to your university. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, so without further ado, let me just share my screen. Okay. Where is the? Hold on. Yeah. Let me check. So is okay. All right, so it was asking to allow to record just now. Okay.
Okay, wait a moment.
Sorry, yeah. I seldom use Zoom, so I'm looking for where is the.
Yeah.
Where is
I already make you a co-host, so maybe you
Okay.
can share the screen.
All right, so everyone can see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so without further ado, all right. Okay, so the topic that I'm going to share today is about, okay, it's about contextual document review. Okay, so contextual document review is one of the methods okay, in data collection and analysis. So a little bit of my background as explained by Miss Susanti just now. So my background, okay, I graduated with a Bachelor in Computer Graphics from New Zealand, Wanganui School of Design, and also from UiTM for my PhD and my Masters. Okay, prior joining UiTM, I was with Sagi University and College Subang Jaya as my last position was the Deputy Head of Faculty. And the area of interest as shared by Miss Susanti just now lah. Sorry with the Malaysian English lah. Okay.
That's okay.
Okay, before I proceed, they're all Indonesian local students, or is there any international student where I have to use fully English?
If I'm not mistaken, it's only Indonesian and Malaysian students.
There would be some mixture.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. So the topic we're going to cover is about the introduction on the contextual document review, why we do it, and the process. Yeah. Okay. So the introduction on contextual document review, okay, is a form of a qualitative method in data collection and data analysis. All right. So it's not necessary to be used in a large scale. It can also be used in a smaller scale of research process. And basically, it relies on the analysis of established text materials as the data basis. So we are looking into analyzing the text written in the documentation or the published articles, whereby we are taking advantage on archival material of related issues that we want to investigate. All right. So, well, it uses a systematic procedure. Now, some of you all might have heard about systematic literature review. Okay. Now, do interrupt whenever you have a question. Just you can type out, okay, and you can so that I can address. All right. So some of us might have heard about systematic literature review. There is a little bit difference between systematic literature review and contextual document review. So systematic literature review is a bigger scale, and we use it for literature review process only. Okay, whereby contextual document review, I will explain to you in detail how does it differ from systematic literature review. Okay, so it uses a systematic procedure similar to systematic literature review to analyze documents, evidence, answer specific research questions. So in contextual document review, we have a specific objective and specific research questions. So it is grounded and it is directed. Okay, it can be conducted, as I explained just now, a standalone study or a component of a larger study. It can be combined with other method, like you conduct a contextual document review in your thesis, then you conduct an interview, and then you do a data triangulation and stuff like that, right? Okay, so far, okay, am I going too fast? I have the tendency to speak very fast. Okay, so why do we do contextual document analysis? So directly is a systematically and efficiently handling textual data. Okay, there is a need to handle a large amount of text data. And for many purposes, it requires and brings us insight into meanings that can be obtained. So we're looking of certain answer. Okay, like contextual document review, like systematic literature review is more of a large scale and is not looking for a specific answer. We are looking at what has been done, what has not been done, what has been discussed. But for contextual document review or contextual document analysis, okay, we are looking insight into meanings that can be obtained from the study. And of course, it will result into obtaining and by examining profiles of ideas, okay? Profiles of ideas and contextual information contained in the text, okay? We'll go into detail on the contextual information, all right? So directly, that is the process, but indirectly, often used to triangulate findings or often used to verify a certain findings, compare and contrast, gathered from another data source. For example, for an interview or observation, okay, and also which can confirm, refute, explain, or expand findings across other data sources. So that's what I meant by indirectly. It can be used as a checker, okay, as a checking reference, because contextual document review requires an analysis and a data collection and analysis of valid sources. All right, valid sources. So the process, how does it look like, the process? So far, okay with the explanation earlier? If you have anything that you're not clear, yes, Dr. Lira.
Sorry, doctor, is this slide stop in the first slide, or are you actually
it's not moving.
It's not moving, sorry.
Oh my God. Okay, sorry. I already in the fourth slide.
Okay.
It's still in the first slide.
In the first slide still.
Okay. If
Right.
like this, is it moving?
Yeah, it's moving.
Yes.
Okay,
It's
so
moving
in
now.
that case, I cannot use the full screen. Never mind. Let's go
Okay.
back.
It's moving
Okay.
now. Okay.
So this is the introduction, okay? And then this is what I meant just now, is systematically and efficiently handling textual data, okay? And also indirectly is used to triangulate findings and also to confirm, refute, explain, argue certain findings across the data sources, because the data collected and analyzed are based on established documents, okay, valid documents, all right? So this is the introduction. All right. So the process, okay, the name itself is contextual document analysis. So it refers to anything that is in context with our research, in context with our objective, in context with our research question. It starts with identifying how to meet the research objective, which normally involves a pattern. A pattern here means a pattern of data. We are not talking about pattern, visual patterns or corak-corak batik, itu bukan ya. we are looking at patterns of data or patterns of analysis in research. Yeah. So it starts with identifying how to meet the research objective. So how do you need to meet the research objective? Is there a requirement that when we are looking for a certain guideline or a certain element of application or principle of design, okay, but it does not appear to have a complete guideline. So we need to combine certain research findings to formulate a new guiding principles, for example, what I did. Yeah? So, and then also to identify what to be answered from the research question. Okay, so that's why it's meant by it's supposed to be in context. In context means in relation. What are we looking for? So that's why it's already guided and it's already have an objective. It's slightly different from systematic literature review. Okay, systematic literature review is very wide. Okay, but of course the process here in contextual document review is not just a short process. Okay. Firstly, it involves a preliminary review process. Okay, so it involves compiling substantial collection of relevant literature involving most cited and relevant. So there is a justification for systematic literature review or literature review. Normally we go for high index, Q1, Q2 papers, and then Scopus, Web of Science articles. But for books, how do we justify that it's relevant for us to refer? Mostly the books are most cited in research, okay? And then it's relevant pertaining to the topic. Okay, it can be books, research theses, published journals, or even multimedia aids. Okay, for example here, the objective here is on multimedia teaching aids and interface design. Okay, this should be pertaining to your topic, aim, and objective. So if your objective is to identify what are the established guiding principles for character design in Indonesian games design. So, are there any guiding principles for character games design? Yes. But for Indonesian character games design, we are not sure. But most probably there isn't. Right? Because in general, yes, but in specific, like for my case here, multimedia teaching aid interface design. In Malaysia, for multimedia design teaching aid, there is no specific. For multimedia elements, for multimedia interface design, yes, there is a guiding principle. But for multimedia teaching aid, it's very vague. It's not clear. Okay. So from here, okay, the process involves read and review what has been selected, been compiled. Of course, we go through rigorous amount of published articles. It can be from 50 books that we screen the title and the content, and if we find it suitable, we put one side. Those that are not suitable, we don't select them. So maybe out of 50 books, we selected 10 or 8 out of 100 or 300 journal articles. We narrow it down to 20 or something like that. Okay, so for example, for my case, okay, I'm supposed to show this one first. Sorry, there's a technical error on the slide. So the process would be, for example, here, the title of the thesis is Interface Design Principle Elements Characteristics in Multimedia Teaching Aid Non-Creative Design Field, Malaysian Tertiary Education. So the primary aim would be to analyze the applicability and etc. content within tertiary education. So this thesis, I'm taking from my thesis, but later on I will show an easier example which my degree student did. Yeah? Okay, so not to worry. This is to show the whole scenario. So from this, okay, this thesis has 3 objectives and 4 research questions. So the contextual document analysis is applied to meet the first objective of the thesis, which is to determine implementation of principal elements characteristic interface design appearance, which is what are the principal elements characteristics of interface design established by scholars for a multimedia teaching aid interface design. So after searching high and low, there is no specific principal elements characteristic interface design established by scholars. They have multimedia interface design. They have elements of teaching aids, principles of teaching aid design, but the combination of interface design and multimedia teaching aid, no. So they need to have 3 overlapping principles, which is multimedia design, teaching aid design, and interface design. So with that, what my supervisor told me was, well, you have to establish the guiding principle based on what you investigate. So that's where the sleepless reading began. Okay, so far clear with the early stage? Okay, right, so that's okay. Okay, so then that's where it involves the preliminary process. Okay, and from here with this objective, okay, the process. This is the narrowed down key text, which involve 16 key text. Key text means the books, articles, and thesis. So I did not show here how many number of books. If I'm not mistaken, there were around 20 to 25 books. Okay, research thesis, around 10 research thesis, which involve PhD thesis and master's thesis. Scholarly journals, there are only 8, but of course I've gone through nearly close to 100 scholarly journals. Okay, so from 100 journals, of course there are 8 which is found to be the most cited and most relevant. So from these 16 key texts, of course, the next stage would be the criteria of the criteria of selection would be listing elements and principal guidelines of interface design, significantly cited as guiding principle by numerous authors. And it provides a holistic guideline of principal elements of interface design for effective teaching aid. So it has to involve all this scope, which is the interface design, effective teaching aids, principles. And of course, mine would be quite big because it involves principles, elements, and characteristics. Okay. So from there, this is how we do it. So some might be just looking at principle of design. So if you're only looking at principle design, so you will look only on the principle design. But if you're looking on elements, then you just look at the elements. But for my case, it involves the principal elements and the characteristics. What are the characteristics to be established as a guiding principle? So these are the books, okay, designed for new media. So we can see these are all highly referred books in multimedia design. Okay, the book title. So for the first one, it only established four principle of design. Okay, and of course, during the process, okay, we need to identify because qualitative research depends very much on the researcher itself, on their knowledge and expertise. So there are times where we have to make our own justification and adjustment. Okay, so for example, some of the elements, okay, we can see is stated image. Okay, some of the elements stated as icon, image. Okay, some is stated as graphic. Okay, so we have to evaluate what are the similarity of the key index. This is what I meant by the key index. Okay, what do we want to find? Are we combining the graphic and the image? So we have to do a lot of cross-reference back and forth to identify. In fact, similarly with the principles of design. Okay, some we see is emphasis, some uses contrast. So which one do we want to apply? So from there, okay, we take out the most principle of design, the most applied element of design, and we put it in a final justification. So these are the finalized ones. And then these are the journals. So the result would be each scholars establish elements and characteristics based on different perspective and design framework. In art and design, we always see this, no matter what method we use. I think, Dr. Lira, when you are doing visual analysis, we also have this establishment of through different perspectives. You know, when you use content analysis, you know, even for interview, okay? So different perspectives and design frameworks depends on the design framework itself. But of course, equivalently focus on understanding the interface design function, which enhance and facilitate the content delivery for user accommodation in their usage engagement. So from there, this can be categorized into user-centered design, interface design, and interface design functionality. So this one comes from us. Okay, if you're familiar with qualitative research is always about bottom up. Okay, we are building the knowledge, okay, through whatever that we discover. So from there, the most recommended principal elements of principal elements characteristics of the interface design in the established scholars, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 principles of design with 6 elements of design. So each of the element has its characteristic guidelines. In terms of usage of text, it should be consistent in the font size, placement, and consistent in color. So these falls under consistency, consistent color throughout the pages, consistent placement of graphics, consistent throughout the content, visible placement. Okay, the audio should be consistency throughout all the pages. Okay, the hierarchy, cluster, structured, hierarchical. So it has a lot of similarity with other, what do we call this? With other design principles. But in context of the interface design for multimedia teaching aid, in context with the usage. So that's why it's called contextual document review. Okay, we have an objective to meet. We have a research question to answer, which is the research question was, what are the principal elements and characteristics of interface design established by scholars for a multimedia teaching aid interface design? Okay. So far, okay? Lanjut? All right. So what's next? So based on the recommended principles, it will be used as a guideline to where the next phase of the data collection will be to establish understanding of principal elements characteristics, interface design in enhancing the multimedia and answering the research question. How do non-creative designer design, and how do the principal elements characteristic interface design being applied? So based on the findings from the contextual document review, I developed a semi-structured interview questions in order to meet the objective number 3. And I also developed a measuring instrument to analyze the visual content of the multimedia teaching aid based on these characteristics. So that's the first stage. It took me 1 semester to establish this. I mean, for PhD, of course, so you guys don't worry. Okay, but let me share with you something lighter. Okay, this is done by one of my degree students for their academic writing. His title is The Digital Illustration Element in Malay Folklore Digital Storytelling Books. Okay, it's a part of a degree dissertation. So the elements of digital illustration profile in designing digital folklore storytelling book. So the objective is to identify the elements of illustration in Malay folklore digital storytelling book. So you can see there are 3 different colors there. So there are 3 different scopes. Elements of illustration, yes, we are familiar with. But what about elements of illustration in Malay folklore? Maybe ada, mungkin nggak ada. Alright. Digital story elements of illustration in digital storytelling books? Yes. Because he keep coming to me. I found this, but I don't find this. I found this, but I don't find this. Yes. Because what you're doing is something quite new. Okay, something quite new, which is you're looking at elements of illustration in Malay folklore. If a Malay folklore storybook has been done, but digital storytelling books not being done yet, not being discovered yet. So elements of illustration in digital storytelling, yes, because digital storytelling has many platforms. Digital storytelling through animation, digital storytelling through animated books, but digital storytelling books for Malay folklore. So the challenge for him is, but I said you at degree level, you don't really have to go through 1 semester of that. So what he did was he looked into, I think, around 10 journals, okay, related to like elements of design, okay, importance of illustration in children's books, and then children's storybooks, and then Malaysian women children book illustration, visual storytelling in folklore, multicultural, children literacy resource, okay, how picture books helps, the role of illustration, psychological impact on colors in children book illustration. So basically what he looked was on illustration and children illustration and folklore. So from there, he because he was only looking at element, so he don't have to focus on the principles of design. He don't have to focus on the characteristics. He just need to establish what are the most most significant element. So from there, he discovered there are only 4 related, which is the most recommended elements of digital illustration in Malay folklore digital storybook, focusing on line, colors, textures, and shape. So he will be using this because he will need to analyze the visual content analysis of digital storytelling books, Malay folklore, that has already in the market, to identify how does the elements of illustration is being applied in the digital illustration digital illustration of the digital storytelling book for children. So he will be analyzing against this using a certain instrument through a Likert scale, certain Likert scale or frequency analysis. I can't remember. Okay, so it can be as simple as this to establish a contextual document review, and this is actually very close to us among art and design research students, among art and design students, be it in degree level, undergraduate, or a master's, and even up to PhD. Okay, so now this is actually has been around, was being introduced by my supervisor in Queensland University of Technology, Australia, way back in 2008, 2010, something like that. Okay, so that's about it for contextual document review. I hope my explanation was clear. If there is any, I know it's a very quick journey, but of course it will give an introduction, insight towards another alternative of document review, instead of focusing very much on systematic literature review, which is very comprehensive. But of course, this one is not a very simple one, but it can be simplified to be adapted among undergraduate students. And of course, even if you are going to do writing an article for published journal, and it can also be applied. All right, so with that, I end my session this afternoon. So saya serahkan kembali pada Bu Susanti.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Shahrinizan. So it's a very meaningful material to share, of course. And now we will enter the discussion session. So everyone, if you have a question, you can ask directly to our speakers today. So we have Dr. Shahrunizam as well as Dr. Lira, from Telkom University. She will join us in the discussion session. So everyone, if you have a question, you can raise your hand to ask directly to our speakers, or maybe you can drop your question in the feature of chat.
Okay. Mungkin dalam bahasa Indonesia sedikit,
Boleh.
Bu Santi, Bu
Aja.
Novi. Ya, terutama untuk beberapa anak-anak di kelas seminar saya yang kebetulan juga ada beberapa ada beberapa document review.
Iya.
Itu cukup menarik kalau seandainya kita bisa mengolah dalam dalam contextual document review. Karena kalau misalnya, if I'm not mistaken, what this established is actually an analytical framework, which is really interesting. Like what you are doing here, Doctor, in your thesis also you kind of like you discovered that here are the principles, here are the characteristic, here are what what things we are trying to find, and in context to the research process itself. But then after that, the result, it can be applied to other research,
Yes, and in
which
fact,
is quite interesting.
yeah, and in fact, I've published a paper regarding to the contextual document review, and thank God it has been, Alhamdulillah, it has been as a useful reference principle of design for up till now, even after a few years, it is still being referred, and I think is one of my highest cited paper among all my paper.
Oh, that's really great.
And
Yeah.
surprisingly, it comes from the principles of design. The reference comes from not just Asian countries. Yeah, it's very interesting. I have a thesis in Korean, in Russian.
Yeah, which is really interesting in terms of principles of design. Sometimes we might think that principles of design would be similar, right?
Yes.
But then we see that there is a context here in play to creating a principle of design. Like for example, in probably like you may create an interface design for Malaysian users, but then for Indonesian users, there might be different, yeah, right? There might be different principles in play to create the whole interface design, for example. So I think this is really useful. In fact, that I would retry my dissertation because because using my dissertation was actually visually analyzing textile patterns, right?
Yes.
But then in order to establish the principles or the characteristics, or what analytical tool can I apply to analyze the textile pattern, is actually this one can be discovered from contextual document review, for example.
Great.
You see?
Are we looking at a joint grant research?
Probably. Shall we try?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I think it's doable because
yes, I would be interested to join.
Yeah, please. I mean, we can talk about that later.
Yes.
I would show you next session too, probably like in terms of what can be done to that. And before that, please everyone, if you have questions, of course, like right now you are in the process of trying to find out what kind of like what is relevant to your research, right? And what are the sources that can be used for analyzing your research, or for doing your research, right? So this is one tool that can be used. Okay, here I have I think Sosan, she is my student in international class. So if you are ready, Sosan, please, you can open your mic and then you can ask directly to Dr. Nizam.
Okay, hello, good afternoon. Thank you, Ms. Sir, for the material. So my question is actually about more about how we can use it. So you mentioned a little bit about, like, you compared it a little bit with the systematic document review. So I was wondering if there's any certain advantages and disadvantages of using this contextual document review, and like, is there a certain research questions that we should use this contextual document reviews? Is there like a certain project that, oh, it's better if you use this, for example?
Yeah. Okay, good question. Thank you, Sosan. Oh, by the way, where are you from?
And near here, sir.
Okay. All right. So, as mentioned in the beginning of my presentation just now, okay, systematic literature review is for us to establish a research. Okay, because the nature of literature review is for us, in general, to identify weaknesses, to identify what has been done, what has not been done, okay, what are the arguments in the research, what are the weaknesses, okay, what has been discovered, what needs to be discovered further. Okay, so there are a lot of things in literature review. So when we do systematic literature review by topic, right? Of course, we have subtopics of our literature review. So when we do systematic literature review, we don't have, not to say a direction, but the literature review is used to establish a direction. Whereas for contextual document review, okay, is vice versa. It's the other way around. We already have an objective. We already have a research question to answer. Okay, for example, what are the principles of animation? What are the principles of animation in Indonesian animation movie established by scholars? Okay, you can be using what are the elements of animation from Malaysia, because there is a slight cultural differences, even though you have Upin Ipin in Indonesian language, but the elements and the backgrounds and the situation, the scenario, because in animation, for example, you will have ambience design, right? You have environment design. Okay, you have the apparel design, the clothes for the animation character. So it is different compared to Indonesian. So Indonesian children doesn't wear like how Malaysian children wear. For example, in general, okay, the way, the style, the hairstyle. So these are small things that we need to look into. All right. So when we are using contextual document review, we already have a clear objective and we have a clear research question to answer. But asking about what are the types of research questions that can adopt the contextual document review is quite difficult to be answered. It all depends, but in general, if you are looking for something that has not been established and you need to review different published scholarly articles, journals, magazines, web articles, thesis, books, then you can use contextual document review. Even you can use interview, because the interview, recorded interview from YouTube, right? An interview by expert or whatsoever, you transcribe them into text, you can use it in contextual document review as well, as long as the sources are valid by established scholars, experts, designers, animators, scholars, then it can be used. But of course, we are looking at something that has not been established. It's not necessarily principle of design. It's not necessarily elements of design. It can be something else. It can be, for example, you would like to identify what are the elements of semiotics principles in advertising in Southeast Asia or in Indonesia, So if you are going to analyze, if you are going to do a semiotic analysis on Indonesian female cosmetic advertising, what are the characteristics of semiotics elements in Indonesian women that you need to establish? Can you find that in the library? Is there anything that has been published pertaining to that? If there is something that has been published pertaining to that, then you don't need to do a contextual document review. But if there's not been published, then you have to do it lah.
I think I can also add, Sausan,
Yes.
Are you still there? Okay. I think this can be really in shape, in context, if I would like to note there is one student here. I hope he's here. His name is Taufik Raja Parikeset. Raja, are you there?
Sepertinya nggak ada.
Ada Raja, tapi saya tidak tahu apakah dia Raja, can you engage? Ini sangat menarik karena seperti yang barusan disampaikan oleh Dr. Nizam, what you want to establish with contextual document review is if I'm not mistaken, is the analytical tool. When you understand the research question, like research question is, how do I identify this? Or what is the elements? Or what is the characteristic of something? And then you want to know, is there any research about this? Is there any ongoing research about this already out there? Is there any publications? And if there are publications, then what do they publish? Is it already specific or is it still general? If it's already specific, then Dr. Nizam has said, like, you don't need to do that. There is already something that can be applied. But if there is, if it is not specific yet, like if we are trying to answer something that is too local, too specific, and there is no established basis on it, there's no established analytical framework for it, then it might help you. So, for example, Raja, I think this is probably really interesting for you, Dr. Nizam, also for Sausan. Raja, for example, I might take Raja's research about maternal horror.
Wow, interesting.
Very interesting. Raja, are you up?
Yeah, I think he's here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go. So, when you talk about the establishment of analytical tool to analyze or to say the principles or to the identifiers of something, I came up with Raja's research. Ya, riset Raja itu mengenai maternal horror, betul Raja?
Iya, betul.
Ya. Dan di sini salah satunya adalah dia berusaha membuat suatu identifikasi. Apa sih yang bisa diidentifikasi sebagai maternal horror, betul Raja?
Iya, Bu.
Nah, ini identifikasi maternal horror itu kan sebenarnya sangat general ya, Dokter. I mean, like professor. I'm thinking like you're a professor already. So, amin. So, jadi maternal horror can in any country there is a maternal horror, right? There is this kind of like representasi maternal horror. Tapi adakah di Indonesia representasi maternal horror yang sangat spesifik, Raja?
Right now, yeah, basically we have like some sort of laws that was made in about the 60s about how women should behave. So that is the background of my research.
Nah, jadinya pada saat kita berusaha membuat suatu karakteristik atau suatu identifier maternal horror untuk yang lokal Indonesia itu seperti apa, dan misalnya kita tidak punya tidak punya studi-studi terkait karena studinya terlalu general kepada maternal horror, itu mungkin bisa menjadi contextual document review, bisa menjadi suatu tool yang dipakai untuk menemukan maternal horror untuk Indonesia itu sangat spesifik kalau ada elemen bla 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 gitu. Seperti itu mungkin salah satunya ya, Sausan.
Actually my question is, as far as I remember, content analysis itu juga agak Because as far as I remember, content analysis is also kind of finding similar words or pattern in a data. So I was wondering if there's any difference in that, or is it similar?
Content analysis is part of contextual document analysis. It falls under content. It falls under contextual document analysis because content analysis we build up. Tetapi contextual document analysis kita narrow down. So it's the other way around. But we still use content analysis because anything that pertaining to text is content analysis, but the content analysis is based on the context.
Needs to be in context, and the context needs to be found.
So that's why it's called contextual document review. Because content analysis is very big. It can be for interview, it can be for narrative analysis, you know. So methodology gitulah kan, dia overlap here and there. So we as the researcher or the student doing the research, we have to know our direction. Not to worry, because I can understand coming from undergraduates, you are quite rigid with the method. Don't worry. Yeah.
Also, like contextual document review is that we are trying to review lots of documents, right?
Yes.
So, for example, the key here is documents. So what you need to find, the context that you need to find are already there in documents, journals, books, right?
Yes, any published
materials.
Scholarly articles, yes.
Scholarly articles. Whether content analysis, it's very broad.
Yeah, it can be on a newspaper article, it can be from a web article, it can be from any text, content analysis. And in fact, content analysis also can be done throughout visual content analysis.
Yes. Like, for example, if you have visual data, like photographic data or something, the audio, visual data that you want to analyze the content material, you use visual content analysis from there.
Also, one last thing. You mentioned, I think it was in the slides, there's indirectly, like the contextual document review can triangulate data with like interviews and observation. I wonder how can that be done? Or is it the same method or process with the principles, or is it done differently?
Because what we are comparing, for example, what I did was based on the principles and elements characteristic guidelines established, okay, I developed an instrument for content analysis, for my visual content analysis, to analyze the visuals of the multimedia teaching aids. So does the design reflect what has been established by the contextual document analysis process? So I will analyze based on the principles of harmony, the text, the color, does the design reflect the characteristics? Okay, and then when I develop an interview, semi-structured interview, so I will have to make sure the interview questions will the answers will be directed to the characteristics of the principle. So I will be asking questions like, how do you design, how do you use the colors in your of the text in your multimedia teaching aid design? So I will have to ask questions based on what are the characteristics. So if the lecturers have an understanding, so they will be answering like, oh, I'm using what kind of colors, so I just simply choose whatever colors that I like. So these answers will reflect in my analysis of the interview and through my finding. So that's how we triangulate. So in the discussion, then we will discuss back. As established by scholars, this is what has been established. But in the design by the lecturers, the visuals are in such a way. And how did lecturers design the process? What are the level of their understanding? Then does it reflect the scholarly article? So that's what we mean by triangulation. So that if it's a fully qualitative research, it will not be biased. So because qualitative research...
So basically it gives us a guide on the interview questions that we need to ask and the things we need to observe from the contextual document review, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Any questions from my students? Muna?
Thank you, Sausan.
Thank you, Miss. Thank you, Doctor.
No worries. Okay.
So is there anyone who want to share your question, everyone? Or sharing your topic for a project, research project maybe?
Iman, are you there?
Students from UiTM maybe?
Wan Ahmad Iman, any questions?
No, Doctor.
Muna,
Oh,
sure.
okay.
No. Muna, Tira. I think some of them has left for class.
Oh, I see.
Amalia.
So students, is it clear enough about the topic today, or is there anyone who want to share the question? Okay, everything is clear so far, Doctor. Okay, I see.
Alhamdulillah, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, so if all students have clear understanding of our topic today, so maybe we can wrap up the session for today, and maybe we can share another discussion in this next session, yeah, with Ibu Lina. All right, everyone.
Yeah, and maybe along the way, if the students from Telkom University have anything that is not clear or have any question, you can just address it to Dr. Lira, and we can.
Yes. I can relate to Dr. Nizam. Yes, of
No
course.
worries.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Dr. Shahnur Nijam. Okay, so everyone, this has been an interesting session, which I believe it will enrich our knowledge and our understanding on our topic today. But yeah, I hope all the speakers did not mind to receive following up question afterwards. As yeah, Dr. Shahrul Nizam mentioned earlier. And then before we end the session, we are going to have a photo session. So we invite all of you to turn on the video. So we will take a pictures. All right, everyone, please turn on your camera. Right, Wan Ahmad, Taufik, Zahratul, Ainun, Moira, come on, turn on your camera, please. Okay. Zahratun, Ainun, Farah, Afifah, Cindy. All right, we will take a picture now. So put your best smile. 1, 2, 3. All right, one more time. Freestyle. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. So I will share the feedback link.
I think the rest are not
Okay.
camera.
Okay, so everyone, I have shared the feedback link. So please fill out the feedback link to earn e-certificate, but please note that e-certificate will be granted to participants who attend both sessions, so today's session and next session. Okay. All right. So we came to the end of our class class today. So I bid you a goodbye, everyone, and thank you so much, Dr. Shahrul Nizam and Dr. Lira. We can meet again in the next session. And everyone, thank you so much for attending this session. I bid you a goodbye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much, Bu Novi. Thank you, Dr. Nizam.